Hi, my name is Aaron Prue. I am the owner of the Doctor's Lawyer PLLC, operating out of Palm Harbor, Florida. I have been practicing for 25 years. I've been running this law firm for 4 years, and I have 2 employees. In my law firm, I knew that I did not have a full 40-hour work week of work to give to my assistant at the time that I finally decided to do this. So I knew that I needed to have somebody that would be flexible to be part-time, and I started looking into offshore because of cost reasons. And with RLS, RemoteLegalStaff, I chose them. It was an easy choice to make. Everything about RLS has been highly professional, very well organized, very well publicized. I had a lot of candidates to interview. It was an easy choice to make. I initially looked at hiring a full-time local paralegal or legal assistant, and I also looked at, and actually did in the past, use local staffing company. I went with RLS because of cost efficiencies and professionalism. While I haven't used any other offshore companies in the past, I have used local staffing companies, and RLS has been far superior to the other 2 local staffing companies that I have used in terms of professionalism, trust, competence, and cost. It was obvious right away in dealing with RLS how professional the company is. Everybody that I communicated with knew what they were talking about, and everything was presented to me in a very detailed and organized manner, making my decisions very easy to make. All of the candidates with whom I was presented had law school degrees, or they were in law school, which was excellent for the potential for upward growth. The interview process went very well. All of the candidates were clearly qualified. It was very cordial, but also professional, and I had as much time as I needed with each candidate. Onboarding was very smooth, easy, and seamless. You know, you're working with the staff person that you retained, but there's also a lot of hand-holding that goes on with the manager and making sure everything's coordinated between you and your new staff member. The time and effort required to train my new staff member did not lead to any surprises or inefficiencies. She was completely competent. I also made sure I had my whole system well organized, trained her on everything in the most organized way possible, and she was very quickly off and running. If any lawyers are thinking they don't have time to train, you should probably restructure that thought. The amount of time and effort and organization you give to a new staff member, so long as they are competent, is going to pay off pretty immediately. In my case, it was 1 month of solid training, and we're off and running. For anyone apprehensive about hiring offshore with RLS, I can say the hand-holding has been amazing. The manager just makes sure everything's okay. You're being checked in with regularly. You can have Zoom conferences. And as for the staff member themselves, they're also available by all sorts of electronic means. That's where we are in 2025. We no longer have to be hiring locally. Legal staff provided by offshore companies can do pretty much everything that your local staff can do. I suppose they can't go courier documents to a courtroom for you. They can't appear in courtroom or at a deposition with you physically, but in 2025, almost all of these things are done electronically anyway, and so having offshore does not impact your business. When I first started with my offshore staff member, this broke her in slowly with scheduling, slowly over time. Because she has a legal education, I was able to move that into paralegal type functions, drafting from forms, and now just after 6 months or so, she's already moved up to being able to understand some legal concepts and working on more intellectual legal matters. My offshore staff was able to adapt very quickly to all of the tools. In fact, she was the one that helped me onboard Clio, document management system, and she was just very proficient at everything my law office and really any law office needs in order to run smoothly. In terms of cost effectiveness, RLS has saved me at least 33% on what I would have spent on local staff. And I say at least because the staff member that I have has gone above and beyond and has filled out other roles that I probably would have been paying other local staff for. The only thing that from time to time feels like could be missing from offshore staffing is not being in close physical proximity with someone and how that might kind of change the feeling of a relationship. But this can be prevented or minimized by having frequent Zoom conferences and telephone conferences to stay in contact. Managing remote legal staff members has been easier than expected, in part because of the assistance from RLS with the guidelines they have for their own employees. It just makes it a lot easier to manage my remote staff member. After my staff member was fully trained, my clients certainly noticed the increase in efficiency. Communications, they're not always able to reach me directly, so there's more communication with the law firm, and my clients have expressly stated their appreciation about this. By delegating the time and tasks that I was handling myself to a remote staff person, I have freed up a lot of time to do my own additional networking for obtaining future clients. I have been able to handle all sorts of other things in my personal life. I've had a lot of home improvements that had to get done this year that have all been done, and I've increased my personal free time. My biggest apprehension actually about using offshore staffing was that the company that I was working with would not be responsive, and nothing could be further from the truth with RLS. They've been responsive with everything I've needed. The hand-holding is as tight as you want, and once you're off and running, you can let go, but if you ever need some more assistance, they're always there for you. From the start, I was very impressed with RLS, beginning with the professionalism and detailed communication. When it came time for me to interview candidates, I was provided with 7 candidates, all of whom were in law school or already had a law degree. And what I also found particularly impressive is they do not rope you into a long-term contract. So you can try it for a month, and if it does not work for some reason, you can be done. So if you need legal staff and you do not want to deal with the headaches of hiring somebody, employing somebody, and all that entails, and the possibility of then having to fire somebody and all that entails, I would strongly recommend RLS.